Perfect. Wonderful. Okay. Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to this Friday Q&A with me. Thank you to all the people who sent in questions. I'll be answering those questions first. I just want to make sure that the chat is working. So if you don't mind, if you could just type in what city you're just calling in from so I can just make sure the chat is working. And I'm assuming you can all hear and see me as well. So perfect. Okay, looks like the chat is working. Okay. Wow. Lots of people from all over the place. Okay. I'm going to just mute some people. Okay. So before we get into the questions, there are a couple of things that a couple of general tips that I just want to go through. So, the exams next week. There's a couple of things that I want to just review. One is that it's really important to just keep calm on the exam. Keeping calm on the exam lets you read the questions slower. And for the people who don't pass, I find it's people who don't read the question slowly. So make sure that if you find that you're really speeding through the questions, you're not reading them slowly enough, just stop, take a deep breath, 7 deep breaths, because seven is the target A1C, and just calm down and slow down your test writing. Another thing is that there will be some pilot questions on the exam. So as I explained in the how to start section, uh, pilot questions aren't worth any marks, but you won't be able to tell what question is a test question. And so even if you spend like half an hour, whatever it is on a test question, you still won't, and you get it right, you still won't get any marks for it. So it's important that if you get stuck on a question, that you don't spend too much time on it, just mark as question mark and then move on to the next question so that you don't waste time on what potentially is a question that you could get right, but you still don't get any marks for. Lastly, I have some tips for people who, you'll be writing this from home. So because you're doing it at home, you can do a couple things to make it more comfortable. Like for example, if you have like if la you find lavender calming, you can have like a lavender infuser or something like that. That doesn't break the rules. You can't have like cheat sheets lying around or something like that. That will automatically they will automatically fail you for that. But you might as well make it comfortable. Like if you like the smell of lavender, have a lavender infuser. If you're a religious person, have like a spiritual figurine around that if you find it calming, or just a picture of your family. There are certain advantages in writing it at home. For example, in Calgary, sometimes we have snowstorms in May. And there was one time where there was a snowstorm during the exam. We all went in, we were all soaking wet, and everyone sneezing and coughing and everything. So it was not a comfortable experience. So there are some advantages in, writing it from home. So I'm just going to go through the questions that people send me. Just some general items. You don't see it on your screen, but I have like 5 boxes open. I have to admit people, I have to monitor the chat, I have the pictures of you guys, so I can't do everything at once. So I have a lot of boxes. If I don't get to your question, there's still time. I have days off next week where if you want to put in the exam form, I can answer it. And I have 3 Q&As next week if I don't get to your question today. Yeah. So let's get started. I'm excited to get started, and you have some great questions. So I think Jenna is here. So Jenna, feel free to unmute if you want to. Is there any additional guidance for intensifying treatment or starting insulin? And yeah, I feel that the current guidelines are more vague on that. In general, I still use the if it's greater than 1.5 in real life. If it's greater than 1.5, then I start talking about insulin to the patient. And yeah, and it's not in the updated chapter, but that's still what I use in real life. You also asked about ketones, and so I do have a chart here. This is in the after practice exam review. Unfortunately, there's no ketone chart in the Diabetes Canada guidelines. For some reason, they don't have a uh, chart on that. So I have seen like Alberta Services chart, Ontario Health Services chart. So use the chart of your province, but a good one you can use is this one. This is from Type 1 Diabetes Breakthrough. This used to be the Junior Diabetes Federation. And I find this diagram really cool. If it's zero point 0.6, then okay, not a problem. Recheck in 2 hours. If ketones are zero point 0.6, then take increased bolus. And if it's O3, go to the hospital. Your province might have a specialized, like in it, we, your province might have a specialized one, so follow that. But otherwise, I think this is a good general chart to follow. Again, that's just in my after practice exam review right here, the Diabetic Ketoacidosis and Ketones website. Okay. Okay. And then Lowe's treatment, do we need to know what's just in the chapter, also the ones on aid? So I'm assuming you're referring to that handout where the carbohydrates are slightly different. I don't think you need to know that. Like it wasn't mentioned in the actual guidelines. That's just a handout. So I would just go with the 15 grams as per the latest hypoglycemia chapter and the type 1 chapter. So yeah, Jenna, I think you are online here. Let me just look for you. Yeah, does that answer your question? Here, I'll ask you to unmute.
Hi, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I thought
Yeah.
there was one in the children's, specific to children's too on AID that had their weight, 0 to 5, 5 to 10
Oh, that's
kilos.
glucagon.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
no,
I'm thinking
we're all
AID.
learning together. This is
Yes.
just meant to be a casual session.
So that handout, you're right. That's I think where I had got that from Diabetes Canada. So you think it's probably a little bit too specific for exam
I
purposes.
I think so. Otherwise, you'd be like if you memorize everything from every handout, there's like a million handouts that you would have to be memorizing for.
Okay. No, I just was curious. It's funny. I actually had a patient this week
Oh,
that had
okay.
an A1C of 14.6,
Holy
and I
moly.
directly sent them to the ER for an insulin start, and they adjusted orals.
Huh.
So I was going to bring the guidelines, but it is a little more vague this time about, I see the metabolic decompensation and the signs and symptoms, but I feel like in the past there was something a lot more specific. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was just hoping to find they like very concrete guidance. So I just thought it was a little more vague.
You're right. Like in the old one, it is like if it's greater than 1.5, you'd start insulin right away, or if there's any signs of metabolic decompensation. But in this current one, yeah, it's kind of more vague, more like, oh, if you have heart failure, do this. If you have ASV, CVD, you do this. But there's no like concrete A1C target where you have to start insulin and stuff like that. So you're right. It is more vague.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So, I think this is Emma's question. Let me just double check here. Bum. Yeah, I think this is Emma's question. Are there any other ways of managing the dawn effect, other than eating earlier and having less carbohydrates, etc., etc.? Um, so not a ton. So let me just review the dawn phenomenon as well. And let me show you where you can find a little bit more information on it as well on my website. So the dawn phenomenon is a natural phenomenon that happens as you wake up. As you wake up, you produce counter-regulatory hormones like epinephrine and cortisol that help your body wake up. But those same hormones are also counter-regulatory hormones, which oppose insulin, and that can make your sugar go up. So I'm in my exam form. People ask about this often. Let me see here. Yeah, so basically, so because of that spike in counter-regulatory hormones that wake you up, you get a increase in your blood sugars. Now, so for people like me, I need like coffee in the morning because I need more of those counter, I need more epinephrine and more cortisol to wake me up. And that would theoretically increase my sugars higher. So there's not a, like you've mentioned those things like the carbs and stuff like that, which can work. I do have a patient who has really bad Dawn phenomenon. Her sugars aren't completely well controlled. So for her, what I've done is actually I've done 4 units of Humalog right in the morning, right when she wakes up. And by the time she brushes her teeth and gets to breakfast, then the spike isn't as much. So that's something you could use if someone had really, really bad on phenomenon. But other than the stuff that you mentioned, Emma, that's basically all that I know on how to manage it. And then uh, her sugars go up at Orange Theory, heart so it's a pretty high heart rate. And so, yes. So your sugars, so if you, so depending on how intense your exercise is, that can actually increase your sugars. So for example, if you were doing like powerlifting or like activities where you have a really big burst of activity, kind of like hockey in a way too, your sugars will actually go up temporarily. And the reason why it's going up is that your body is demanding a lot of sugar to do this very strenuous activity, like powerlifting or hockey and stuff like that. And so because there's all this huge demand for sugar, your body will just release a bunch of sugar. Remember, your muscles have 300 grams of glycogen, your liver has 75 grams of glycogen, can turn all of that into sugar, your liver being the fastest source, and then your sugars will temporarily go up. And then as you work your muscles, it should go back down. So for people with type 1, a strategy that they can use to prevent hypoglycemia if they're doing like long distance running or long-term aerobic work is actually do a couple sprints or do a bunch of quick movements to get their sugars up, and then they do their long-term marathon activity, and that actually helps them prevent going low during that time. So yeah, and so that is probably why their sugars are going up temporarily, but it should come down afterwards. And then the Harvard ice cream study. No, I haven't actually read that one. Emma, if you don't mind unmuting and just talking about what that study is, I'd be interested in hearing what that is about.
Um, sure. Hi, Esmond.
All
So,
right.
I didn't. Thanks for the first question, by the way. For the ice cream study, so a patient just asked me if I read it. I hadn't read it, so I read
Oh,
the
okay.
ultimate summary. I didn't have time to read it in full, but basically, they looked at people with diabetes, and they found that the people that had better controlled diabetes were people that had ice cream up to 2 times per week. So
Okay.
maybe it's about
Interesting.
moderation. I'm not sure. Yeah, but that's not, it's not, it's just correlation. So the patient had been eating ice cream a few times per week.
Um, I would just, as a random guess, if people are happy, their sugars are, they'll be willing to if they're happier, they're more willing to exercise, be have friends, go out, chat, and drink less, smoke less. So I don't know, maybe ice cream brings enough happiness to have those effects, just as a guess.
Yeah, or maybe it was in the summer or something. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. It's like the popsicle thing, like increased popsicles leads to increased drowning, but it's not the popsicles because in the summer you're going swimming.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So, let me see here. So next question is oh, this is a different Emma. Yes. Sorry, that was Ewa. Sorry, Emma. So okay, genetics. Should we know the percentage likelihood of developing type 1 and type 2? Yes, you should. That's in my pathophysiology lectures. And so you should know that. Usually there's like maybe like one question on that or something like that. So that is right. Where is it? Right here. Yeah. So I would know that for the exam. Studies. What kind of detail do we know for the studies? That's a good question, Emma. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what's going to be exam. So I should preface it that I don't know what's on exam when I write it. So the level of detail, I think you should at least know what to study, like who did it study and what were the results in general. So you should know that the UKPDS studied people with type 2. They found that there was significant decreases in microvascular complications. For the DCT edict, you should know it was type 1. Again, significant decreases in microvascular complications. The Today study, it's kind of like the landmark study for type 2 in children and adolescents, and that what they tried, and that form by itself probably wasn't very strong. So I don't know exactly what you need to know for exam. I think you should, at the very least, have a general idea of what those studies are. If you have extra room in your brain, maybe you could memorize some of the statistics, but that's really hard to say. Okay, so medical procedures. Yeah, so I do have a bit of that on my website as well. That's also in the after practice exam review. Let me show you. This is kind of a difficult one because it's slightly different. Yeah, here it is. So this one talks about, this is the HS handout. Oh, there's lots of people on websites, so it's slow right now. Just one sec. There we go. Okay. So this talks about how much to reduce your insulin by and things like that. Uh, I would just know this in general because your province, like, remember, this is a national exam. And so just because, I don't know, like Monjaro is covered in Ontario doesn't mean it's covered in every province. So that's something to keep in mind. So it's like, oh, Monjaro is covered in Ontario, so it should be covered and I can use it in this poor patient. So no, that's not the case. You have to assume that they don't have a plan, then it's not covered. And so for this stuff, like this is kind of what you should generally know. But if there's a specific provincial, if there's an Ontario Health Services handout for your province, you should follow your own thing. But this is roughly kind of like a general thing that you can that you can know for the exam. Yeah. Okay. And style of questions. So they're all multiple choice questions. There's no like what's called K type questions where you have to pick A, B, and C or something like that. It's just A, B, C, D, and it's all multiple choice questions. There's no short answer questions or anything like that. So let's see, Emma, I think I admitted Emma here. Let me see. You are, okay. Yeah, you are here, Emma. So yeah, does that answer your question, Emma? Did you have any other things needed for that?
No, that was everything. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Okay, let's go on to the next person. Oh, 1 second. I think people are trying to get in. Okay, admit. Come in, come on in. Okay, perfect. Okay. Where are we? Karen, so how much questions do you expect on ISF and carbo ratio type questions? Not a lot, actually. It seems like there's been less and less titration questions lately, like insulin calculation questions on the exam lately. I don't know if they'll change it for this year, but lately there has been less of that, so I would still know it for real life, but yeah, I would say that there's kind of like a low medium importance to those calculations. And then what is the required passing mark? So they have you can find it in the CDECP handbook. Actually, maybe I'll look it up right now. They have this kind of complicated equation which they feel is the best for um, they have this complicated equation. You can find it in a handbook where they feel that verifies itself or something like that. Basically, the way I understand it, it's basically a class average. And so, where is it?
I think I did find it. I think it was 13, maybe page
Okay,
13. I remember.
here, let me try to find it.
I eventually found it.
Okay. Yeah, it's this weird like formula that they use. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. The Madoff-Angoff method. I don't know. I don't really understand it, but that's what, from what I understand of it, it's basically like a class average.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
no problem at all. I'm happy to answer your question. And then you had one other thing, I think. Let me just double check.
I think
Uh,
it was pumps.
mhm,
Is there many questions? I don't deal with a lot of pumps, so I'm just wondering what the
mhm.
weight of that is.
Sure. There's usually a question or two. I do have some videos on that. If you look right here, like I wouldn't study it in depth. There's usually only one or two questions. Um, right. Yeah, if you follow this thing down, I have like three short insulin pump videos, and that should be everything I think you need to know for the exam.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, Karen. Okay, let's see who's next. Okay, I was wondering for your sample question from 23. Yeah, there's a lot of combinations for this question. And so here, let me go to that. So chapter 23, one second. I just have like tons of windows opens that you can't see. There's lots of different combinations of that. The best thing to do is that there's actually a tool on the Diabetes Canada website that I want to show you guys. And then you can just play with that infinitely. So basically it's like, yeah, let me get down here. Yeah, so let me just move these windows around. Yeah, so trying to figure out which what combination of CVD protective medications is difficult for sure. But there is a website on here. Let me just show you the website first. Where is it? Okay, let me just look for it. It's in the healthcare provider tools. And then you can just test yourself. Okay, what is going on here? That's weird. Okay, let me try on something else then. That is really weird. Um, hmm, sorry. Okay, let me try a different way. So if you go to the healthcare provider tools, there is something where you can like play around the settings and see if uh see like if the like if they're have heart attack and it's this if they have if they're over 50 then you can change it. Basically you just have to memorize this equation here, and it's important to start from the top and then go down to the bottom. If you go from the bottom up then it doesn't make sense. And so for example, if you have a patient, if they have any kind of prior CV event or cardiovascular ischemia, which is stroke, then they're on all three. Then if they have any kind of microvascular disease, then they're at least on a statin ACE. Now, with this CV risk factors, the CV risk factors are right here, actually, in this thing here. Number four there. Sorry, I know it's small. Let me try to zoom in. There we go. And those are the ones you would memorize. And if yes, then there'd be a statin and ACE. And then you get down to the lower thing here. I'll put a link to it. It's just in healthcare provider tools that tool to check for ARBs and ACEs and stuff like that. I'm not sure why it's not working right now. Like it was working just I was on the Diabetes Canada website just an hour ago. So I don't
If
know why
you
that's
click
not
on it,
working.
if you
Huh?
click on it in the chat, it worked on my computer. I don't know if it
Oh,
would work for you from the chat.
oh, something's wrong with my computer. Maybe because I'm streaming. Here, let me. You cannot because. Hmm. I think it's because I'm streaming right now, so That's why I can't connect. That's really odd though. So, but yeah, I think this is the one. You can just play around with it. You can try it in multiple infinite times, and then you can just get good at it. Sorry that I can't show it to you. Okay, now where am I? Okay, perfect. So yeah, sorry that I can't show that to you, Felicia. But if you put it in the exam form, I can give you a link as well, and then show you how to use it so that you can play around with it and get comfortable with that.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, next. Linda asks, can you clarify monofilament testing for neuropathy versus sensation of feet? Okay. So neuropathy, there's lots of different kinds of neuropathy. You can have stuff like autonomic neuropathy, which decreases sweating and can lead to heat stroke. You can have gastrointestinal neuropathies, which can lead to things like gastroparesis. So for peripheral, loss of protective sensation is kind of like a, s- a, se- a kind of falls under peripheral neuropathy. And if you have peripheral neuropathy, what we're worried about with loss of protective sensation is that you'll step on a sharp nail, or a sharp stone, you won't feel it. The infection spreads, gets to the bone, then you bone infection, and then from there amputation is increasingly likely. So that's what we're looking for. We're worried about the loss of protective sensation. And generally, it's in my patients, I found it all over the feet. Generally, it's in the plantar, the bottom of the foot. But some people can't feel like the sides of the toes or the top of their toes. It can happen anywhere, but generally, it's on the plantar side. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Linda? Is Linda here? I hope she is. She is. Hey, here. Yeah, just let me know if you need more info than that, Linda.
Hi. Yeah, I was just wondering though, because in the neuropathy chapter, they talk about testing one spot on the dorsal side by the big toe for neuropathy, but I'm not clear if that's just for peripheral neuropathy or if that's testing for all of them. And
Uh,
then in the foot chapter, it's got like a whole bunch of spots on the plantar side.
hmm Yeah. So, yes, there is one spot on the big toe. You would just test for peripheral neuropathy or loss of protective sensation there as well.
Okay.
Um, there's different forms. Like you can use the INLO form. There's a form that I recommended on there, which has the spot. So you can use whichever form you like, but you do test one point on the dorsal side on the big toe, yes, in general.
Okay, good. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So Sarah, and I think she's here. Let me just double check. Yep, okay. Sarah asked, what types of insulin are approved during pregnancy? So if you go by the guidelines, then Levemir, Glargine, and pH are approved by the guidelines. Humalog or Novorapid is approved. Now, if you look at the Tresiba monograph, they'll say yes if the benefit outweighs the risks. And they have done a few studies in pregnant women. And studies in pregnant women are hard to come by. It's somewhat kind of unethical to test pregnant women. So that's why research on it is quite scarce. But for Tresiba, it says if the benefit outweighs the risk, it can be considered. And it does have a few trials that you could use as well. For the Toujeo monograph, it says the same thing. You could try it if the benefit outweighs the risk, but there's no trials with Toujeo. So for me, I would probably, if I had to choose between Toujeo and Tresiba, I would use Tresiba because at least there's some trials. For a weekly icodec, it actually says do not use in pregnancy because in rats, they've shown increased mortality. That's not in humans, but it says no on the monograph. So that's what I would go with. So hope that answers your question, Sarah. Okay. I can't remember whose question is this? Anyway, for metformin and CKD, so in general, you can actually use metformin in mo most stages of CKD. Should it's just in that chart, that renal chart that I have. I think it's here too. Yeah, right here. So you can see in most CKD, you can actually still use metformin, just a lower dose. So this is what I would follow for the exam. If they said just CKD and didn't give you an EGFR, that's kind of an unfair question because like if it's below 15, like if they said their patients on dialysis, and okay, yes, then you would avoid. But they would have to give you some GFR because in most GFRs, you can actually still use metformin. The reason why they're concerned about metformin is because of a risk of lactic acidosis. And so, but lactic acidosis and metformin is actually very, very rare. There's only very few case reports in like decades. What they're really afraid of was the precursor to metformin, which was fenformin, and that medication caused lactic acidosis all the time. Fenformin is no longer used. Metformin is much safer, but for if they had CKD, you just see where they are in the fate, where they are here, and then depend if they're as long as they're over 15 and non-dialysis, you could still use a low dose. Okay. Next question. Also, could you go, oh, the key things, yes. Yeah, so I made a cheat sheet on this actually, and I updated it today as well. So I kind of screwed up and forgot about Wegovy and stuff like that. But if you just go to cheat sheets, it should be this one right here. So you can see the package instructions. Ribelsis does. I know the sample questions came out. Ribelsis, it does come in a blister thing, so you do want to keep it in the blister thing before you right up until the time you take it. Different insulins and different GLP-1s have different storage things, but this is the thing for that competency. Okay. And I believe that's the end of the question. So now I'll look at the chat. Yeah. Linda, does that answer your question? Let's see.
Yes, it does. And I saw that yesterday after I posted that. So
Okay, no
thank you.
problem. No worries. A lot of other people asked about it too. So that was a great question, Linda. Great question. Okay, so let me go look in the chat. Okay, let's see here. So we've got people from Kelowna, St. John's, Vancouver. About so Vincent Ing asks about the style of questions. Is there a high percentage of case studies? I would say high percentage. I would say maybe 10, 20% are case questions. There'll be case questions for sure. But I wouldn't say there's a high percentage. Most of them are, it's similar to my exam actually. Like it's about 10, 20% is case questions. Chi asked, kindly give us a general update on biosimilar insulins. What are the things we should know? So basically, biosimilar insulins are just the same as insulins. It's just a different name for it. It's just like generic medications. Everyone uses, like between glucophage and generic metformin, there really isn't a big difference or any difference technically, if they follow the Health Canada guidelines. So biosimilar insulins are just that insulin, just generic basically. And I think that's all you need to know. There's isn't much, to be honest, there isn't much else to know. Okay, so Nat says, this has happened to me many times where the website doesn't work and then it comes back. Yeah, diabetes, I don't know what's wrong with that Diabetes Canada website. It's kind of annoying sometimes. And yes, that is it. Doris asked if they changed the cutoff for hypo. Yes. So to harmonize with the American diabetes guidelines, it's now 3.9. So they did change that one. So good catch, Doris. That is a small but very good catch. Sarah E. For the exam, do you think we need to know the scoring? Oh, definitely not. I don't think you need to know that for the exam. You just need to know like just generally how to do it. Like you get them to close their eyes. You have to make sure that they're not cheating. You want to bend it just 1 second. You don't want to use a pattern where they can easily guess. You just need to know how to do it. You don't need to know how to score it. Vincent Ing, for metformin, I just missed the minimum age you mentioned. So there isn't a minimum age, but there's a minimum CKD thing, minimum GFR, and it's just right back here, Vincent. Back in, hold on. Yeah, this one that in this chart that everyone hates because it's so complicated. So if you're 15 or above, you can still use a low dose of metformin, mils per minute. But if they're below or dialysis, then you would avoid metformin. Okay. Um, Marion says Winnipeg. Hello, Winnipeggers. I have a bunch of friends there, actually. I have a friend who has some property there, actually. I have trouble memorizing the jugs. Yes. So yes, lots of Wintana, lots of people hate this chart. Um, I would memorize metformin. I think that's probably the one that's most likely to show up on the exam. And in real life practice, everyone's on metformin, so that's a good one to memorize. I know it is difficult. I would try to memorize the other ones as in classes, like for the DPP4s, except for Tradjenta, which you can use all the way, you start adjusting here. And then for GLP-1s, you start adjusting here. For the SGLT2s, that's hard. That's hard. Like the problem is if you memorize this, there might not even be a question on it. So then it's kind of like a waste of time. So just try to memorize it in kind of classes as best as you can. You can't memorize everything, so just try to prioritize that. I wish there was an easy way to, Intana. Shakila asks, chances of lipohypertrophy with insulin pump use. There is some, less. Lipohypertrophy usually happens with IM if the patient's like using the same place. Well, it depends on a lot of things. Like if you're changing the site and changing the infusion set regularly, then there's a low chance. If the patient is using a very big needle, accidentally doing IM injections all the time, using the same site, then there's a higher chance of lipohypertrophy. So there is some, but it's less than, I would say it's less than needles, and especially if they're doing everything correctly. Um, on the screening cheat sheet, it says no screening for type 2 in kids. In the chapter, I thought I read if they're pre-brittle. Okay. I would have to look at that in more detail. I've got too many things open. I still have to admit people and stuff like that. If you could put it in the exam forum, I can take a look at more of that.
Sorry,
Jenna.
Esmond. I just
Yeah.
wanted to say yes, Jenna. That's exactly right.
Okay.
There is like a criteria. Most of it is like, over the 97th percentile for BMI and a family history of someone. But yeah, they do definitely have it in the guidelines.
Okay. So I'll update the cheat sheet with that then.
Um, Esmond, I think you already fixed that because I think
Oh, have I?
I downloaded your most recent screening sheet. I think you had already updated it
Okay.
for T2DM in kids.
Thank you. Thank you for that,
Yeah.
Doris.
Yeah,
Let me
okay.
just double check. There's like a lot of stuff to update. The thing is like once someone changes one thing on the thing, it changes everything else. So um here, where is it? Target screening. Oh yeah, right here. Yes. None, but in general population can be considered. Yeah. So it is right here. Perfect. Okay, so lipos, so uh Moon Anya asked lipohypertrophy and effect of absorption of insulin. So if you're so a lipohypertrophy is like this big fat lump. And so if you inject insulin into it, it's kind of makes the absorption erratic. It could speed it up, it could slow it down. I imagine it would probably slow it down, but it's very hard to guess. And so erratic absorption would be the result of injecting into a lipo. Emma asks, is there a handout that reviews missed doses of insulin and meds? So I actually tried to make one, and the problem is that every medication is actually slightly different. So I couldn't group them together. And so then it's like, okay, you might as well just look up each one individually, unfortunately. I was trying to make one when I tried to do, actually, I think before my update, I think it said storage and missed doses cheat sheet. So if you have that one, that's the old one, which I accidentally uploaded. Unfortunately, there isn't a cheat sheet for that because every every medication is slightly different. So then you just look up each one. Yeah, unfortunately. And the insulins are different too, like Icodec and stuff like that. So
Is
yeah.
that typically tested?
I would say you should know in general, like you never double up on a dose. Like if you miss a dose, you never take two the next time. Um, like for Tresiba, it's really convenient because you can it's the best one if you do a lot of traveling. You can just take it as long as it's before 8 hours before the next one. But each medication says something slightly different. I don't think it'll be tested, but I think you should know those kind of general basic guidelines. Yeah. Okay. TT War asks, can you tell me where the CDE sample questions that you refer to? You should have been emailed them, TTAWR. They were sent to you from the CDECB. So if you haven't received them, I would email them to make sure that uh, they have your right email and then you're not blocking their emails because they'll have info on like Top Hat and stuff like that. So they should have been emailed to you. So you should see it in your email as assuming you're registered to write the exam. Okay, so I'm just going down with Tana. Thank you, Esmond. Yeah, no problem with Tana. My pleasure. Grace asked, can you help clarify insulin? Yes, okay, sure. We can absolutely do that. So a good resource on that is right here in, yes. So I have an example here. And so basically, let's say someone is traveling from Vancouver to London. So if it's less than a couple, I believe it's less than two time zones, then you don't have to adjust. But if it's a big adjustment, then you do need to adjust. Um, there's also, oh, and I also forgot, there is also in this one here, the Saskatch Advanced Insulin Adjustment Dose, they do have a chapter on traveling east and traveling west as well. So there's two sources you can do there, here and my article. But basically, for this one, let's say he's going to London, he's going to lose, he has type 1 diabetes. He's going to lose 8 hours. So if you want to use an equation, basically it's 8 divided by 23rd, he's losing 33%. And so for his basal insulin, you would reduce it by 33%. So he reduce it down to because he's losing 8 hours, you remove that 33% and you get 20 units. And so on the day of his travel, instead of taking 30, he would take 20. Now, what do you do on the way back? Do you increase it? So the answer would be no, because we're afraid that if you increase it from 30 to 40, we're worried that he would get hypoglycemia. And so in that case, if you follow the example here, it's not recommended that you increase it to 40. There's options you could, the, the usual option is that we just give him an extra bolus dose at his meal, because if he's gaining 8 hours, he's probably having an extra meal. And so you would just do an extra bolus one. You could also do this thing where at the 24-hour mark, you give him 10 units. So let's say he's flying back from London to Vancouver. So from when he leaves London, 24 hours, you could give him 10 at that 24-hour mark. And then at his usual time, then he could do another 30 as per usual. But that's kind of complicated. I would usually just use the mealtime one. And that's explained right here. And then there's more examples here as well. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Grace. If you do have more questions about that, you could put it in the exam form if you wanted like another example or something like that. There usually is at least one question on this kind of stuff on the exam, so I would know how to do the travel thing. Okay. Okay, so Grace. Okay, then H. Oh yes, so yeah, it's also on your CDCP account when you log in. Okay. What is the ideal syringe length? Is it 6 or 4? Typically it's 4. We always use a 4 millimeter nanoneedle. nanoneedles, Grace. Okay, Jenna, what contributes to variance? Like hypoglycemia variance, I'm assuming you're referring to? Uh, variance here. I'm not sure what you're.
Sorry, when it talks about the 36% variance when you look at like a CGM report, I thought one of the competencies in there said something about what can contribute to that.
I think okay, here. Emma, someone sorry, I'm getting so I think what they're talking about is just they're talking about glucose variability. And that's when you have this is a case that someone just sent me that. Oh wait, did someone send me this? Shoot, sorry, I think sorry, there's too many windows open. Yeah, so the variance is like this person has like really high variance. And so you can see that their sugars are all over the place. So this is glucose variability. And sorry, whose case is this? Sorry, one sec. Who sent me this case? Iwa. Iwa, are you still online? Sorry, I've totally skipped over your question.
No, that's okay. Sorry, it's Eva. Yes, that
Eva.
is.
Oh,
It's
sorry, Eva.
actually a colleague, so
Oh,
we were
okay.
using it for education purposes, so I thought I'd send it here.
Sure, absolutely. So here, let's go over it together. Sorry I skipped over it. I didn't mean to. There's just like tens of windows popping up and admit me, and all this stuff going on. So yeah, so this patient is really difficult. His sugars are all over the place. He's incredibly high glucose variability. That's crazy. 34.6%, and he's very high all the time. So so how I would approach this patient is it be the same as they taught. Like you look for lows first, then high fastings, then high postprandials. And so for this person, he is having lows often. He's let me see what his percentage low is. So I have to move all these windows around so that I can actually see my screen. Okay, it's not too bad, 1%, but it's what I find surprising with this patient. So he takes 4 units and he goes all the way from 21.2 to 3.8, and he has 75 grams. That's crazy sensitivity to insulin.
So I just need to add to that. Sorry,
Sure.
Edmund. He has a job and he's really active. So it's anything like this guy used to be homeless, so his life is very sporadic. So it's like snow shoveling, or it's usually something really active. So it's the activity that helps to bring down his sugars quite a lot. That, and he's also extremely lean. So
Oh.
the insulin's likely going into his muscle. If you have any tips on that.
Yeah. So I'm assuming this guy is type 1, right? I would assume, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if he's really, really lean, you could do the pinch up. There's like a pinch up method. So first, he should be using the smallest needles possible, like the 4 millimeter nanoneedles. In the FIT guidelines, they also have this. They also have this thing on pinching up if he's really, really, it's mostly for pediatrics, but if this guy's really that lean, then he could try using it as well. I think it's 31. Give me one sec.
Esmond, doesn't it say if you are doing a skin lift, though, it has to be a longer needle at 45 degrees?
So yes, technically, but if this guy's so lean and it's going to so I'm assuming that he's lean and it's going to muscle, which is what I'm hearing from Eva.
Correct.
So yeah, so in this case, I'm not exactly sure what to do, but this is what I would try first. You're absolutely right, Jenna. But if it's going to the muscle all the time, that's probably what's causing the erratic absorption. And so I would at least try this first. Where is it? Sorry. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I'm not like Jenna's absolutely right. Like usually you typically use a longer needle, but this I'm not sure what else he could do. I'm assuming he's using 4 millimeter needles. That would be the first thing I would suggest, because it's supposed to be just a subcutaneous injection. If it's still going to muscle and still causing erratic sugars, then this would be the second thing I try. If it's still not working, I suppose you'd have to send him to a specialist or something like that. I don't know. I don't think they come out with shorter needles than 4 millimeters. And like something that you could also try, this is thinking about further ahead, is that in Alberta, insulin pumps are covered for people with type 1. I don't know if that is the same in your province, but, and you mentioned he was homeless, so insulin pump supplies is very expensive. The pump itself is like $5,000 to $10,000. So that would be another thing that'd be another thing you could try, like try the skin lift. If that doesn't work, send to an endocrinologist, try an insulin pump. That's one thing. Like it just looks like he is like 4 units to go from 21 all the way to 3.0 is crazy insulin sensitivity. I guess he must be exercising as well to push it down that far. But like even here, 4 units. So like his sugars do go up because of his meal, but then he just crashes down. So that's really difficult to control. Um, something you could do is that just I'm just spitballing ideas here. Something you could do if with an insulin pump, you can set what's called a delayed bolus. Um, so that's only for fatty meals too. I'm not sure if it'll work. You could set it for like to set put the insulin slower, and then if he sees that his sugars are dropping rapidly, he could cancel the bolus halfway through. So that's an option. Um, Also, if he was on an insulin pump with AID, he could sense that he's dropping rapidly and then just stop the insulin right there, then and there. Um, for his meals, like typically if you're poor, you're eating like high glycemic carbs and stuff like that. So if you could get him to try to have more protein or a little bit of healthy fats in there, that would spread it out into like a hill instead of this really sharp mountain and valley, and maybe that would help as well.
Sorry, Esmond, I forgot
Yeah.
to say he uses a food bank, so the choices are very
Okay.
limited.
Yeah, and usually, at food, like I volunteered at food banks, usually they sell it's like bread and macaroni and high glycemic items. Oh, this is really tough.
Sorry, Esmond, can I interject
Yeah, yeah.
for just 1 second? Um, so if he's only going low after he eats and post activity, I would just recommend that he would eliminate the insulin bolus altogether if he's going to be active thereafter, because you could see that when he is injecting around supper time and maybe he's not as active thereafter, that his whatever bolus he's given himself for the carbohydrates, it's just not enough.
Hmm.
I'm assuming that it's the activity that's causing him to drop altogether. Although it's hard to say again when you go back to April 17 there, where you see an increase overnight and then he also drops, but we don't know what's happening there specifically, right? So he's definitely erratic. And that variability is quite high, but yeah, it's a difficult one.
Hmm.
Thank you both. Yeah, the other thing was definitely some more education. There was one occasion there where he had like eggs and bacon, but he like it took insulin. So
Uh,
there's a lot of factors, but any ideas are really welcome.
yeah, I think Eugenia had like lots of great suggestions.
But I second your suggestion for a pump for this guy. I think if he's going to be that erratic, the pump, if it's possible for him to get it, is the best option.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, hopefully that gives you some ideas, Eva. And if it doesn't feel like, and I also want to mention, like, even if it's after an exam and you still have a complicated case, feel free to email me anytime. I'm happy to give us second thoughts and stuff like that. So hopefully this goes well for you, Eva, and email me if it doesn't. Okay. Um, where are we? Uh, Helen asked, this was very common with old beef and pork insulins. Yeah, those were less. There's more. It's more different, so the body reacts more to it and more lump. But yeah, hopefully no one's giving out beef or pork insulin nowadays. Okay, where can we find missed dose information? You can find it in the product monograph. If you just look under missed doses and it's there. I tried to create a cheat sheet, but every medication is very different, so I kind of gave up on it. If a patient, Shakila asks, if a patient on basal bolus regimen injects basal instead of bolus, how should this situation be managed? So that does happen frequently. Depending on how much they injected, they would go to emerge, they could eat carbs throughout the night. Do you you would test, I would suggest that they test like every hour or so, make sure that they don't go low. For people with type 2, it's less of a problem because they're in type 2, they're still making their own insulin. So it's like 10 units of their own insulin and then 10 units of the injected insulin, and that keeps them under control. So if they inject 20, then their body is still making insulin and they'll reduce it to 0, and then it won't make that big of a difference for them. For type 2, that's a big problem. And it does happen still once in a while. And those people, like if they just inject it at night or something like that, I would say they'd have to eat a lot, keep carbs by them, wake up every 2 hours, check their sugars, something like that for 12, 16 hours. And then by that time, the insulin should be going out of their body.
Excuse me, can I say something? Would they still, supposing they inject the basal insulin, but they were supposed to take bolus pre-meal, do they still take the bolus or not?
I wouldn't suggest it. I think they're already at really high risk of lows. So in my opinion, I wouldn't tell them to do it.
So they would skip the bolus dose, right?
Correct, yes.
And they would, okay, so that's it then. Supposing they were supposed to take their nightly dose, so they would skip, like somebody say, instead of a pre-lunch bolus, they injected pre-lunch basal. So they would be skipping the pre-lunch bolus as well and the nighttime basal as well.
That would depend on their sugars at the time. If a patient called me, I would say definitely skip their lunchtime. And then it kind of depends on let's say they're on Tresiba. I'd say skip bolus skip lunch bolus definitely. Dinner bolus would depend if their sugars are high, but I'd probably get them to skip that too. And then I'd tell them to monitor their sugars and adjust accordingly.
And skip the nighttime Tresiba then.
Yes. If they took it, yeah, I guess they took it early then. Yeah, then I would tell them to skip the nighttime Tresiba early. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, timing of insulin, is he getting bolus late? Oh yeah, that's a good question for this case. If he's giving it after his meals, then it's not peaking at the correct time, and that could be causing some of these lows as well. So yeah, that is a good that one W10, that is a good catch. Daphne's asking CHO ratio or set doses. Yep. Pump ratios. Okay, good. It's 5:58. So I'm 5:59 now. I'll stay around for a bit longer. Let me just try to get to the end of this. Jenna, do you treat pseudo hypos? I do. They're uncomfortable, so I would treat it as a real hypo. Oh, Olivia says yes too. Daphne tried loosening CHO ratio in his AM. Yeah, that is also that I would also do that, That's a good suggestion, Daphne.
Sorry, Esmond, you kind of missed my
Sorry.
Can we ask one more question?
Oh, yes, here we go. Yes.
Um, I'm having a very hard time with DKA and HHS, just between them two, and
Hmm.
sort of knowing what to do. I don't know, because obviously I don't work in hospital, so I don't really see it, but I
Hmm.
feel like I just need like the gist of the difference.
Sure. So now I want to preface this as in that I don't work in ICU as well.
Mm-hmm.
But so how I think about it is this way. So with DKA, there's so okay, this is the way I like to explain it. Your brain likes to run on glucose, and you need insulin to force to get the sugar from the blood to the brain. So if you don't have enough insulin, then your brain and your other organs are starving. Your brain depends on glucose for the fuel. So if you don't have enough insulin, then your brain is kind of starving. So then it goes to its alternate energy source, which is ketones. Your body can turn fat into ketones,
Mm-hmm.
and that is an alternate source of energy for the brain. Your brain would prefer glucose, but if necessary, it'll use ketones. And so, but the problem with ketones is that they're acidic. And if you have too much ketones, then you have ketoacidosis. It flips your blood pH, and then that leads to acidosis, that throws off your anion gap, and and that leads to the pH going low. Now, if you contrast that with HHS, uh, that's basically like very, very high sugar. In HHS, usually you still have some insulin. And because you have some insulin, your brain can still use glucose as its preferred energy source. It's still happy because it's using glucose as the energy source. So, then that's why you don't get ketosis, because it has its preferred energy source. And so your body doesn't need to turn fat into ketones. Without ketones, there's no acidosis. And without acidosis, there's no anion gap. The symptoms are kind of similar, but the pH and anion gap are the kind of things you can use to
Yeah.
differentiate them.
I guess I saw this question somewhere, and the answer, like it was something about the IV that they would use for um, uh,
Children?
sodium. And then it was like, what would you do next if the blood sugar comes down to about 14? And the answer was give glucose in the IV. I thought that was really strange.
Is that one of my questions?
No, it was not one of yours, husband. No. Yours are a lot more clear. Um,
Okay.
but it
I
was just sort of weird. I've never seen the opportunity for glucose to be in the IV like that. I was confused. Aren't we trying to
I
get the glucose down?
I think what it was is if you have sugars that drop less than 14, if you're
Yes, that's
still
what it was,
acid,
14.
yeah, if you're still acidotic, you have to continue the insulin to resolve the ketosis, but you add the dextrose to avoid sugars that go too low. Is that
So
correct,
if you're
Desmond?
okay.
I am not sure. I haven't worked in ICU before. That sounds logical.
There's
Yeah,
a
in
Um,
the
chart in the
guidelines,
hyper.
it says that.
Yeah,
The Diabetes Canada, that's what I just recently read the chapter, and it did say that the dextrose was given to avoid episodes of hypo.
okay.
Um, yeah, that was just the next step after.
And
it
that's
does
because the
seem
sugar
funny that
came
it's
down to
14.
14.
Yeah,
Yeah,
after 14, it's just
Uh-huh.
advised, I guess, to give the dextrose to avoid
Sorry,
hypo.
and just is this DKA or this HHS?
DKA. No,
Okay.
DKA. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, ladies.
no problem.
Okay, I just
It
have
is.
one more question, Esmond. So HHS never occurs in type 1, right?
It could.
It could.
It could?
It's rare. I wouldn't, I'm not a specialist in the area, but I guess it could.
Why? So the question is, when is HHS likely to occur versus DKA?
So DKA most likely occurs with type 1 and HHS most likely occurs with type 2.
And is it the SGLT2 that kind of increases the risk of HHS?
No, that increases the risk of euglycemic DKA.
So in
Yeah, I actually
euglycemic,
to make it easier for you, Shakila, I had a patient last week and she's a type 2. She was on Jardiance, but she was super sick and she continued taking it. And this ended up happening, right? Because it's part of the SADMANS where you're supposed to stop that medication. And she
Yes.
didn't. And she ended up having euglycemic decay because she was vomiting, she was nauseous, she had all the symptoms, she was super sick, and she still took her Jardiance.
Oh,
So just kind of think of it like that, right? Like she's type 2, she did have decay, but it was because of the medication.
okay. So that means her
That helps.
ketones were high even if she was euglycemic.
That's right. She had high ketones. Yeah, her ketones were like 9. Mhm. Thank you,
Okay.
Asmund. Sorry.
No problem.
Thank
No
you so
problem. No,
much.
that's good. That's perfect. So I'm going to just go quickly answer the I'll just answer the questions in the chat and that'll be the end. Let's see here. For exam purposes, what is the recommended treatment for pseudo? I would assume that you would still treat for the exam. I don't think it's in the guidelines, but I would assume that you would still treat it because it's uncomfortable for the patient. Oh, competences describes. Yeah, I would still treat it.
Sorry to interrupt. It's Vincent here.
Yeah.
Oh, in the guidelines, I thought I saw it said for pseudo treat with 5 to 10 grams of carbs. I'd have to
Yeah.
double check again, but that's just going from memory.
I don't know that off the top of my head. That would sound reasonable, 5 to 10. I would treat it with something because it's uncomfortable for the patient. Like for them, it feels like a real low. So I would treat it with something. But I would have to look it up exactly the dose. Grace asks, will they indicate type of insulin or just brand? So in the past exams, it's been both brand name and generic name, so you don't need to memorize both. Susan says DK. Yeah, this just as we talked about before. Yeah, and Jennifer says 1 to 2 to help blunt the symptoms. Chi, I don't know how to answer that question. If you could put it in the exam forum, I'll look it up more. Okay, perfect. So yeah, thank you for coming, everyone. It's 6:06 now, so I wish you best of luck on the exam. If you do have other questions, please put them in the exam forum. I have taken days off next week to answer your questions, and then there are Q&As next week. You don't have to attend all of them for sure. Like usually by the last one, there's only like 2 people. So but feel free if you want to attend all of them if you want to. But yeah, best of luck on the exam and I'll I'll email you guys when you're done. All right, have a wonderful day. Okay, now stop. Oop, nope. I need to, how do I get out of here again? I need to stop share and then I need to end.